Today we are going to discuss the second part of generativism, and the first part of this theory is dispelling myths about critical period hypothesis. We need to understand critical period hypothesis in relation to second language acquisition, and the core point of discussion is that how learning second language may be affected by when the process begins is referred to as the age factor. Whether the process at all is affected or not, we will find out in a due course. There is a popular belief that children as second language learners are superior to adults. Reason is they learn quickly. The quicker the process, the better result learner is going to produce. L1 acquisition is the process where children are involved. So this is child-specific process. And second language acquisition is to do with the childhood as well as adulthood. Do the differences between them generate understanding of second language acquisition theories? This is again we are going to find out. But before that, we really need to understand that critical period hypothesis contains certain myths, and those myths are related to age factor. The researchers who work for development of second language acquisition theories propagate and believe that these myths need to be dispelled. So dispelling myths to investigate the first language as well as the second language acquisition. Among the researchers who have proposed that, the popular one is H. Stern, who recommended a second language teaching methods on the basis of L1 acquisition. We are now going to discuss the points by Stern that he has proposed and summarized some of the very common arguments with regard to dispelling the myths related to the critical period hypothesis. The first argument is repeat practice in childhood as well as learning a foreign language. Now, according to this argument, in language teaching, we must practice and practice again and again. Just watch a child in a process of learning his mother tongue. He repeats things over and over again. So during the language learning stage, the child practices all the time. This is what we must also do when we learn a foreign language. Second point is language learning is mainly a matter of imitation. Language learning is mainly a matter of imitation. You must be a mimic, just like a small child. He imitates everything. And that process goes for first language as well as the second language acquisition. The third is practice the separate sounds, then words, then sentences. First we practice the separate sounds, then words, and then sentences. That's the natural order and is therefore right for learning a foreign language as well. The fourth point is understanding always precedes speaking. First, a child listens, then he speaks. And therefore, this must be the right order of presenting the skills in a foreign language as well. So this particular argument goes for first language as well as the second language acquisition. Fifth is natural learning order of 4 skills. Here, in the first language acquisition, a small child listens and speaks, and no one word dream of making him read or write. Reading and writing are advanced stages of language development. The natural order for first and second language learning is listening, speaking, reading, and then writing. Sixth is learning without translation. That is, you did not have to translate when you were small. If you were able to learn your language then without translation, you can very well learn the foreign language or the second language without translation as well. No explicit grammar teaching. child does not have explicit grammar teaching, yet he learns the language perfectly. So it is equally unnecessary to use grammatical conceptualization for foreign language. L1 acquisition and SLA are common and important categories of acquisition to compare. There have been numerous research on the comparison of first language acquisition and second language acquisition, but sometimes this comparison suffers from oversimplification. It is not that easy. Why? Reason are that there are certain comparisons which are considered illogical, and there are certain comparisons which are considered logical. Let's see who they are. If you look at this image, you will see that comparison between L1 first language among children and second language among adults cannot be compared. First language and second language among children can be compared. This process can be compared. Then L2 second language in children and how that second language is acquired in adults, it can also be compared. So basically L1, the process of L1 in the children and the process of adult 1 cannot be compared. Critical period hypothesis claims that there is indeed an optimal period for language acquisition ending at puberty. However, in its original formulation, the very basics of this theory was formed by Lenneberg, and we have discussed that. And the evidence provided by Lenneberg was the existence based on the relearning of impaired L1 skills. Jenny was the case we discussed, who was deprived of any language input, even the first language input, for 13 years, and that is why. But that was not a normal case to be considered. So therefore, that was impaired L1 skills rather than the learning of a second language under normal circumstances. The other factors include neurological consideration, hemispheric lateralization under neurological consideration, then biological timetable, which is lower order processes and higher order processes, and the third one is anthropological evidence. Now, anthropological evidence states that people have the capacity of acquiring authentic accent even after the age of puberty. And hemispheric lateralization, the processes are the ones which are under the study of neuroscientists who have to see the process of lateralization to determine when a person reaches a time of puberty and how different hemispheres in mind affect and the function of language. Biological timetable refers to the timetable where the lower order processes and higher order processes are involved. To conclude, although there are myths regarding age factor as crucial in language acquisition process, but there have been researches to dispel these myths and considered various other factors responsible for the acquisition process.